Hi YouTube, and as you can tell from the title there, this is going to be a video about role modeling in Yu-Gi-Oh! In other words, what makes a good role model and what habits of role models I think should not be commonplace, if you see what I mean. This is not aimed at anybody, it's just my own thoughts and opinions, so I hope you guys enjoy. Okay. Being a role model in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not that difficult because there are many different people who subscribe to many different things, especially with YouTubing. You know, there's some personalities people like and content that they like, and others don't like that. It's entirely up to, depending on the tastes of the YouTuber in general. But in general, if you want me to give you my thoughts and ideas of what a good role model in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, it comes down to like two main things, like the mannerisms and the gameplay. And I think we'll start off with the mannerisms because that seems to be a bit more important if you ask me in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think what I think makes a really good role model in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the ability to adjust your personality or language or anything like that to the situation in hand. Now, what I mean by that is using basic forms of please and thank you in the duel, or in general wherever you are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, you know, it's been taught to us ever since we were little, and you know, some people do use it, some people don't, but you know, just basically saying thank you for the good game, or please can I look at this, or please can I check this, you know, it makes the gameplay a bit more enjoyable, and it shows that you're not a rude or disrespectful person when you actually use it. It's the basic form of respect. The other thing is permissions as well. In a role model, you know, a role model doesn't go over leaning over the field and snatches your cards to look at them without your permission or anything. I mean, the amount of times I've heard stories about not just opponents, but people from outside the duel coming in, looking at the graveyard and putting it, you know, when somebody's in the middle of a duel, is quite incredible, and it's a bit astonishing really, because in the official rulebook, yes, the graveyard, the cards in hand and on the field are public knowledge, but you need to ask permission to touch them, because on Dueling Network this isn't much of a problem because the cards are animation, but in the real world, if anybody's got bad intentions and if you're distracted while they're looking through a graveyard, then obviously you can guess what can happen. But so obviously, and also the other thing is, if you are watching a duel in the real world, you know, showing basic respect by not interrupting the duel in any form is important as well. I mean, if you know, because nobody likes to be interrupted in a duel unless it's absolutely important. And the amount of, I have had some people look at my graveyard without permission when I was dueling, and I've actually had to say, excuse me, I'm dueling, do you mind? And they backed off from that, because as I said, if you get distracted during a crucial moment in a duel, then it could end up costing you the game, and you know, nobody wants that really. So in that respect, you know, just generally saying please and thank you in duels, or good game at the end of duels, making sure you ask permission when it comes to the graveyard or cards in the hand and field, because you know, you don't want anybody to accuse you of trying to steal cards or anything now. And you know, it's showing like the basic form of respect, which is what some players I think need in this game. The other thing is also your bad language. Now, unfortunately, bad language is commonplace nowadays, but what I meant by the ability to adjust to your situation with the mannerisms is that most Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are teenagers / adults, so we don't mind bad language. I mean, I do use bad language as well, but very rarely do I use it in the videos. But you also have to remember there are young ones and children playing this game as well, and that's what they should remain, just young ones and children. They don't have to enter the adult world so quickly. So trying to curb your language when there's young ones around is a good way is a good, I think is also a good key thing in a role model, because if you can adjust your situation to that, then that's good. Because I've had some children hear that word and they've come up to me and asked me what it is, and I've had, you know, I don't want to explain to them what that word is, if you see what I mean. And also the other thing is, if the children repeat that bad word outside the Yu-Gi-Oh duel and the parents find out, or the parents hear that kind of language, I mean, they could potentially stop their kids from coming into this amazing game, and therefore we might have lost a couple of really good duelists in that sense. So in the mannerism section, I think to make a good role model is just, you know, basic forms of respect, please, thank you, making sure you ask permissions to touch the opponent's cards or to check cards or whatever, and the ability to adjust your language barrier or language in general when there's young ones around, or adults around and everything. Because, you know, some people, as I said, for some people it's commonplace nowadays, others don't tolerate it. You know, if there's young ones around, you know, they should remain just young ones and not have to worry about the bad words or anything. And the second part of what I think makes a really good role model is in the gameplay. Now, a lot of YouTubers are relatively good gamers, but of course there are also idiots. And what makes the idiots, I think, is mainly the ego. Now, some people, when they start playing the game and they get a really good deck or meta deck, they automatically think that they're the hottest thing in the world and that they can do anything. No, you can't. Sorry to disappoint you, but you're not the only person playing the Yu-Gi-Oh game. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, playing this game. So you're not unique, I'm afraid. But when they start to, the other aspect of the ego is, you know, some people say, oh, I'm going to win in one turn, I'm going to get you with an OTK, FTK before they actually do it. And that is really very egotistical, and sometimes it does go through and they get an ego boost then, but if the opponent manages to stop that combo or stop you from getting your OTK in that, you're the only one who's going to get bruised. You know, you can't throw a tantrum at that person for stopping your OTK. I mean, that's what the game's all about. The game's about battling it out till the end and ending anything that could kill you in one turn, basically. And people who boast that sort of thing and then they get proven wrong and have a tantrum about it, in my opinion, don't deserve to play the game, because they're taking the fun out of it. I mean, yes, some people play for fun and competitive reasons, but having a tantrum and being disrespectful when that sort of thing happens is really pathetic, if you ask me, and it makes a bad role model, because if you play that sort of thing with a young one and or a new player and you rant at them for stopping your combo or whatever, then they're going to have a bad experience and might not even like the game, or worse, they might actually think it's the norm and start acting that way themselves, and that's really not good for this game, if you ask me. And the other thing about is being able, again this is adjusting to a situation. Now, when it comes to new players or players who haven't seen cards before, slowing down the game and explaining the cards to them isn't a bad idea, but nobody needs to whinge about it. Because the amount of times I've had to ask some players on Dueling Network or in tournaments to slow down a little bit and explain the cards because I haven't seen before, it can be slightly frustrating if you do play at a fast pace, but being able to adjust to people like that, I think, is a key element, because eventually once they do start to get used to it, then you can pick up the game at its normal speed again. But, you know, just slowing down to explain your cards or whatever is a good idea, because unfortunately there are some people who will play very fast, and because the other person might not know what the cards do, they can see that as an intention to cheat, and again, that's not really good or a good role model or anything, and nobody wants that. And the final thing for gameplay is rulings and glossary. You know, if you know your own rulings and glossary of your own cards and deck and everything, then you know, if you need to explain it to somebody else, then that's no problem. And if you need to double check anything with a local judge or online, then, you know, again, being part of a good role model, so nobody can get confused about anything. But there have been people who will try to twist the rulings to suit their advantage or get the glossary wrong, and when they throw a tantrum or when they're proven wrong is again really pathetic and they shouldn't be allowed to play the game if they're like that, in honest truth. But again, it's all to do with being able to adjust to the situation. And that, I think that's what makes another good Yu-Gi-Oh role model, is if you know your own rulings on your own deck and that, then you can obviously teach these rulings to other people, so eventually if they face that same deck again, then they know what to expect and they know how things go. And you, again, connecting to the speed of the game, you can play at fast speed if once that person is used to the games and everything. And so, just in general, I think in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh, a good role model is somebody who has the basic mannerisms and respect that's needed for the game. You know, saying please and thank you, asking permission, you know, being able to adjust to situations depending on the game. For example, if it's a new player who hasn't seen your cards before, you know, slow down a little bit, explain your cards, you know, and double check the rulings and everything so they can understand and become a better duelist themselves. And I think those are some of the key things. What makes a bad player, I think in general, is somebody who is just rude, disrespectful, doesn't adjust to the situation, throws a tantrum, becomes a real brat if you ask me, and you know, who uses bad language all the time and doesn't care or give two F's that there are other people in the room. And that's not really fair, because as I said, if it's a new player or a young player, they could copy that and then you get another bad player on the scene, or you just make it such a bad experience for them that they give up on the game of Yu-Gi-Oh because they don't want to experience it again, which is not good for us, unfortunately. So anyway, that's it everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. Post your thoughts and comments down below, and we'll see you later. Bye!